Welcome back to Where Yellows Walk. It's a comprehensive review of all things Oxford United on the internet. And this week we are asking the question, just how good was Oxford United's transfer window for 24-25? And of course, we're looking back at the Preston result too. Welcome to Where Yellows Walk. Luke is back. Welcome back, Luke, from Talk of the 72. You must have enjoyed that Preston game.
Yeah, it was a really good another home performance for us there. So as long as we can keep playing like that at the Sam, I think it's going to be a fun season for anyone attending.
We'll talk about the game a little bit more in a second, but I want to get straight into, if I can, the transfer window for Oxford. In the comments below, we'd love you to put your grading 1 to 10. How impressed or not have you been with the window for Oxford? Now, of course, you were never going to be the biggest spenders of the 24, but you weren't at the bottom of the list. Portsmouth spent just a little bit less than you. €1 million spent. Did you expect around about that figure, or did you expect it perhaps to be a little bit more, Luke?
I'm not too sure, really. The signing of Dembele at the end broke our transfer record fee. They reckon it's probably just south of $1 million on its own up front, with maybe a few add-ons. The owners have a lot of money, and we sort of knew they would maybe invest. I think maybe more of the money's gone into dealing with the wages of these high-profile players rather than the initial fees themselves.
Yeah, I mean, if we have a look at some of them now. So Kyoso, Curry, and Mizuni, these are the players that you spent money on, as far as we know anyway. Dembele's price was that close to $1 million? Did we find out in the end?
So that one I don't think is it under a question mark there? I think
it is. Yeah,
the report fee is probably just under $1 million by itself, so that does bump that total spending up quite a bit. But
it does, yeah. It's about $2 million, isn't it? So, but generally looking down this list, I mean, I know you haven't seen all of these players in action yet, but certainly we've talked about Volks and his addition. Phillips obviously went off injured, but has been brilliant for what I've seen so far. Are you happy with what you've got and who you've got in the right positions?
Yeah, I couldn't think many Oxford fans would ask for much more. I think if we were being greedy, it would have been another striker on deadline day, which I've heard that we were chasing, but nothing really seemed to fall. But I think on the weekend, you mentioned Volks there. He's a player that we actually dropped for the game on the weekend. And if you would have said that to me a few months ago, Will Volks is a player we can afford to sit on the bench, I would have probably laughed you out the room. So it probably goes to show the strength and depth we've got now, which is definitely taken our squad to the next level.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the departures as well then. Again, there's no money coming in for... Sorry, Luke, we lost you there for a second. Let's look at the departures then for a second, because of course part of the transfer window success is about getting rid of players that perhaps aren't going to be at that level, or the wages need moving on, or perhaps their age. Were there any on here that you felt the club might have done a bit more to keep or to offer better terms to? Any disappointments?
I think the big one at the start of the window was Murphy, but as soon as that deal was announced he was going to Portsmouth, it came out pretty quickly that we offered him a record wage and the sort of the biggest package that was feasible for us to offer. So I don't think many fans held too big of a grudge there or hoped we pushed any further. I think maybe another one which shocked a few people is Jack Curry coming in from Wimbledon. We thought maybe he would feature a bit more, but he's gone on loan to Leyton Orient now on deadline day. Just hasn't quite seemed to impress or had enough time to impress during pre-season to solidify his spot. But other than that, I think it's been a very sensible window. The only thing with outgoings is we brought in Ben Nelson on deadline day, and now Jordan Thornley, who is an established championship player, can definitely play in League One level, that's for sure. He's now sort of sitting 5th or 6th choice in centre-back. So that's probably a wage we would have looked to get rid of because we are close to the squad sort of cap. So I think there's going to be a few players that maybe aren't registered or just not involved as much as they would have liked. So that's going to be an interesting one to see how we manage that.
All right, then, in the comments below, numbers 1 to 10, what did you put? Luke, what do you give your overall transfer window?
I think if I'm being greedy, I'll say 9 because we would have liked a striker. But, I mean, when you look at it, it's the best transfer window I've ever seen, and people are saying it's the best one we've ever had. So it's got to be a 10, hasn't it? There's not much more we could have done there.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, let's talk Preston then before we have a quick chat about your next visitors, which are Stoke City. Here's Rate My Take, the very best of social media following the Oxford result of Preston. Isaac, thanks for this, Isaac. Isaac said, I would like a Kieran Brown contract extension ASAP, please. And thanks. Absolutely colossus. You agree with that? I think we get the point he's making.
Yeah, I think Kieran Brown is a player that stepping up, we all thought, right, he might be one we need to look to replace in that back line. With Elliot Moore being the captain, you're never really going to drop him first. But early on in the season, he's shown that he is capable of stepping up to this level. And he seemed to have found this new ball playing ability as well as out and out defense sort of mindset that he's always had. But he also, like I say, he looks comfortable on the ball now, which is something he maybe didn't look so much last season. And then, like I say, we've added Ben Nelson, so that's competition for him. Hopefully he can push further and sort of develop further, and that will up his game even more. But yeah, he's definitely someone I think is a good asset for the squad, especially being able to cover left back as well. Left-sided centre backs are a highly wanted thing in the modern game, so he fits
absolutely.
That
yeah, gosh, there's not many of them, is it? Nicholas says, I hope Phillips and Benny's are okay. Dembele looks exciting, etc. Yeah, it was a cameo. What did you make of the guy, lad from Birmingham?
It's a player that we haven't had many of like that. People sort of were quick to say, oh, this is the Murphy replacement, but they are so different, but equally as dangerous. Murphy was much more direct, raw pace, get past your man and get the ball into the box. But Dembele looks like he's going to send the man one way, back the other side, and then back in again. He's sort of twisting and turning all the time. And if we're able to just let him pick up those sort of pockets of space, he does like to drift inside more than Murphy did. He's definitely got the quality there. And like I say, he's just one of them players where when they get on the ball, you're instantly sort of sitting up a little bit on the edge of your seat thinking, what's going to come next?
The two players, the two people other than Dembele getting credit, were obviously Tyler for what a fantastic goal it was, and actually that Ian was replying to a Preston fans there that said, well, I think it was the Preston manager actually said, well, he'll never score a goal like that again, and actually that's exactly the sort of goals he does score. So they said he hadn't done his homework, but the other person getting credit was Deds, because lots of people noticing that for the first 20 minutes, but she weren't in the game, and he made some tactical changes on the field, and actually from that point onwards, you didn't look. There's only one team that's going to win it. Did you notice that, or do you agree with those views?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the first 10, 15 minutes, let's say maybe even 20, it looked like it could be a runaway result for Preston, and I think there was a player that went down sort of injured per se, where they sort of rallied the troops in. And as soon as they come back out, you could see the changes. Brannigan dropped a little bit deeper, sort of helped McEachran in that deeper role. And what I did like, when you're under the cosh, sometimes you can sort of, your instincts to tighten up and try, if a winger's getting the better of a fullback, let's bring someone in to help him out. But what we actually did was we said, we're going to push our fullbacks higher, and we're going to sort of play a game of cat and mouse where if the wingers want to stay high, then they're going to have to track back to get our fullbacks because they're pushing a lot higher up the pitch now. And instead of getting pinned in, we thought we're going to try flip this and pin them in, and it definitely paid off. And when Harris equalised, I think that did really change the sort of tide of the game, and Preston struggled to sort of get as much joy as they did early on.
Yeah, can't stop scoring, can he, Harris? Right, next two then after the international break, Stoke at home, and then Bristol City away.
The tasty one.
I know you're looking forward to that for lots of reasons. So Stoke first. What do you make of Stoke as a side? Obviously, they are one of the longest-serving teams in the Championship now with Preston and QPR. They're another direct physical side. Do we when you're playing teams like this that are happy for you to have the ball, how does he go about it? Do you do what you've been doing at home so far? Or do you have to adapt for a team that's clearly going to be very direct and put lots of balls in your box?
Yeah, I think you're right. We are a team that especially when Elliot Moore's fit, which hasn't been the past 2 games, so hopefully he's back by then. When you've got a 6'5" centre back in Kieran Brown, we are fairly comfortable with dealing with these long balls. But if you're slotting Sam Long, or maybe the new guy comes in, it might be a bit of a trickier game. But I like to think, like I say, Des is more than happy. He's got his philosophies, but he's more than happy to go, actually, what I want week in, week out maybe isn't working this game. And he's happy to sort of hold his hands up and go, right, for the result today, we're going to need to be a little bit different. We're going to be a little bit smarter, and sort of maybe just peel away from what you think's right for the better of the team and work it out that way. So it's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't call this one. Absolutely. They've had a dodgy result in Watford, and they've won at Plymouth, of course, in the weekend, which isn't really any measure of any team so far, is it? But I think 4 games in, you'd have taken 6 points, wouldn't you? If I'd have said at the start of the season, international break, 6 points from 4 games.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, just wins on the ball. And the fact they've both come at home, I think, is sort of keeping a few fans happier. Than if we'd have lost the home ones and maybe won the away ones, I think you might have had a few people that only go to the home games that might have had their nose up a little bit. But yeah, it's been a nice sort of balance of the start of the season, a real experience of the Championship and what we can maybe expect for the rest of the season.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that we're not talking to you each week, as we will be doing for the other 42 weeks, about defeats and everyone's predictions were right. We may get there, but for now, Oxford are very welcome in the Championship, and they seem very accustomed to it. Right, thanks for joining us, Luke. Please put your predictions, or your ratings of the transfer window in the comments below, and we'll look forward to seeing you the other side of the Stoke result in 2 weeks' time. Cheers, Luke.
Thank you very much, Matt.